Hi, everybody. Pete Sardis for The Lawyer You Know. We've got an update on Crystal Smith, Aiden Fucci's mom. Looks like she's going to trial. There was a hearing on April 12th. I will go through what the hearing was about and what I'm expecting to see going forward. All right, so let's talk about it. Crystal Smith was supposed to be set for trial coming up this week. The court issued something called a docket sounding. And what that is a hearing that happens kind of a few days before trial, just to make sure that all the housekeeping matters are taken care of, to make sure that both sides are ready to go, and to give the court an indication about what it's going to take to get this trial done. That docket sounding happened on April 12th. And here's the basic gist. Crystal Smith's lawyer asked the judge for a little bit more time so that he can more properly prepare. The judge, frankly, used his discretion and granted that motion, continuing this trial from April 17th until May 15th of this year. Give him about 30 days. There is another docket sounding that's going to happen on May 10th. This is not odd, and I think those of you that have been following us realize that criminal cases, especially, because a defendant has the right under this Constitution for a fair jury trial, it is very difficult for a judge to deny a motion for continuance based on some sort of facts that lead the court to believe that the continuance is in the interest of justice. And that's exactly what happened here. The hearing today, I was watching it, and the defense lawyer basically said, "Judge, getting it together. There's a couple of outstanding issues. We're talking with the state, but at this point, I'm going to need a little bit more time." The state did not argue. They didn't, raise a stink saying that, "No, judge, there's just no reason to do this. It has to be, April 17th or nothing." So nothing like that happened. It was a very easy hearing. Crystal Smith was present for this hearing and was actually seated outside of the courtroom until they called her case, at which point she came in, went right up to the podium with her attorney, and had this hearing with the court. She didn't say anything to anybody, which is, again, not strange, because you wouldn't have your criminal defendant making any comments unless it's in the matter of a change of a plea, or if it's the matter of the court doing a colloquy with the defendant to make sure that they're satisfied with their lawyers, something like we saw in the Aiden Fucci sentencing, when the court specifically asked Aiden Fucci, "Are you satisfied with your attorneys? Are you okay with the evidence that they presented? Is there anything more that you want me to consider?" Things like that. So what I do know is going to happen is May 10th, the judge has indicated we're going to have a follow-up docket sounding just to make sure everything is good to go. The court did consider the matter of jurors and has already said to both lawyers that he's going to order additional jurors to be brought in for the Crystal Smith trial. And if you recall, in the last episode, I talked to you about this is a very public case. Her son and his case is going to be part and parcel of the presentation of evidence that is going to go in front of the jury that will judge her guilt or innocence. And because of that, the court recognizes that there are, the press around the Aiden Fucci trial is going to have some effect on Crystal Smith also. So what he's doing is he's bringing in additional jurors. He didn't specifically say how many, but he did indicate on the record that he's asking the jury selection and the jury section in the clerk's office to make sure that they have plenty of jurors. So that's what is going to be done. Like I said before, I think it's going to take a lot of jurors to find a jury for Crystal Smith, simply because when the judge says, "Has anybody heard of this case?" I'm expecting a lot of hands to go up and say, "Yes, we've been following it on The Lawyer You Know. We've been following it in the media," whatever the case may be. So a lot of those people may have preconceived notions about Crystal Smith's guilt or innocence, at which point those people are tainted. They've got to get let go. All right, let's talk about the trial itself. The judge has asked both lawyers what they anticipate the trial length is going to be. And it sounds like they believe they can get jury selection done in one day, at which point on May 16th, the very next day, this trial is starting. The indication is 2 days. So I went a little bit further and did some digging to see kind of what the trial is going to look like based on the filings. And I saw something very interesting that was missing. What was missing is a defendant's witness list. Let's talk for a minute about how Florida works. In Florida, you as a defendant are not obligated to provide a witness or exhibit list. You have no obligation to put on any case. In fact, a lawyer can sit back and twiddle his or her thumbs all day during the trial, say absolutely nothing, and it's perfectly okay. So the distinction that I want to make is if you as a defendant do want to put on a defense, you are obligated to provide a witness list to the state because it is not trial by ambush, especially if a defendant has elected to participate in pretrial discovery, which Crystal Smith has elected to do. I anticipate, based on the fact that there's no witness list the month before trial, one of two things is going to happen. Either in the next month, the defense is going to file a witness list and an exhibit list and give the state some sort of notice of who could potentially be a witness in this case, or this is going to be a case where the state presents their evidence and the defense is going to argue that that evidence alone is insufficient to sustain a conviction against Crystal Smith because the evidence is not beyond a reasonable doubt indicative of guilt. I don't know how that's going to go. Let's be just kind of like backtrack for a second. We know that the state has followed a witness list. It's a pretty lengthy witness list. They've provided notice to the defense of all the law enforcement officers that gathered evidence. They've got the videotapes from the security cameras that were gathered based on the search warrant on the Fucci home. That's the video that actually portrays Crystal Smith taking Aiden Fucci's clothes and putting them in the washing machine, allegedly at a time when Aiden was being interviewed by law enforcement and at a time subsequent to Crystal Smith being told by Aiden that he was wearing jeans and her trying to explain to him that he should tell the law enforcement officers that he was wearing khakis and to give her an opportunity basically to wash his clothes. That's the allegation in this case. Part two of the discussion is there is evidence of the videotape of Aiden Fucci with his mother, Crystal Smith, and his father in the holding room before Aiden's interview starts, where Aiden is talking to his mom and his mom mouths the words blood to Aiden while they're having a discussion before he speaks to law enforcement. So those videos have been listed as evidence. They're in the state's exhibit list. In addition, there are more witnesses that have been listed. There are lay witnesses, a bunch of people whom I don't know who they are, but their names are in the witness list. So there's about 6 or 7 individuals who are named as prospective witnesses in this case. So we shall see what happens. But if it's going to be a 2-day trial, and we're talking about a day to pick a jury, which I think is kind of quick for this case, but fine. They know their case better than we do. A day to pick a jury, and then opening arguments of both the state and potentially the defense. Now, the defense could waive their opening arguments if they wish, but at this point, let's presume they both do opening statements. Let's take those opening statements at an hour each. Then the state will go right into their offer of proof or their proffer in their case in chief, and they'll go through the law enforcement officers that gather the videotapes. They will then show the videotapes to the jury. After that, I'm guessing there's going to be some cross-examination based on whatever the state brings up. So they're going to put on the police officer that recorded the interaction between Aiden Fucci and his parents. That video will be played, at which point the defense counsel has the right to cross-examine that person and ask them questions about how the video was made or try to poke some holes in whatever the testimony is. The next witness, I'm guessing, is going to be the Florida Department of Law Enforcement laboratory person that seized the surveillance video in the Fucci home, because that is the next logical step in the series of events. They will then show that videotape. And again, the defense will do cross-examination of that person. Realistically speaking, that should pretty much put us into a day's worth of testimony. So I'm expecting, like I said, opening arguments and those 2 witnesses and the videotapes. That should consume the day. Maybe day 2 is going to be the defense coming back and moving for judgment of acquittal. What is judgment of acquittal? Judgment of acquittal is a motion that the defense will do at the end of the state's case in chief and say, Judge, based on the evidence that the state has presented, there is not enough to substantiate or to sustain a verdict of guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in this case. And that is something that happens in every criminal trial. I don't think I've been in a criminal trial in 22 years where we did not do a motion for judgment of acquittal, or at least argued it at some point in the case. Now, is it often that the judge grants that? No, it's frankly the exception, not the rule. It is very rare that that actually be granted. But in a case where, you know, there may be question about what Crystal Smith knew at the time that she was washing jeans, may play a role in this judgment of acquittal. Because if the state cannot prove that Crystal Smith knew that there was potentially blood on Aiden's clothing and just washed them in, you know, is like you would wash clothes any other day, there may not be enough knowledge at that time. So we shall see what the state puts forward. Beyond that, that's probably going to be the extent of this case. I'm guessing then there will be a charge conference, which is the defense lawyer and the state sitting with the court and just agreeing to what jury instructions should be given to the jurors. And if that's the case, they will move right into closing arguments. The state will close, the defense will close, and realistically, that should pretty much eat up the morning. So then the judge is going to probably send the jurors out to lunch, bring them back, charge them with their instructions, and send them back for their deliberations. That's practically the only way that I could see this trial lasting 2 days. Now, could the defense put on witnesses? Absolutely. The defendant has the right to put their own defense up if they choose, or if she chooses to do so. If she does not choose to do so, the court will engage in a colloquy with Crystal Smith. Do you understand that you have the right to put on witnesses? Do you understand that you have the right to put on evidence? You're not obligated to do so. And if your choice is that you don't want to, that's perfectly fine. Crystal Smith herself is not obligated to testify. Remember, you have Fifth Amendment privileges against self-incrimination. It is up to the state to convict Crystal Smith based on competent evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. It is not Crystal Smith's obligation to prove her innocence. In fact, she can do nothing. Many times, defendants do not testify in their own trials. Sometimes they do. It is a decision she will make. Again, the court will do a colloquy and just to confirm, you have the right to testify. You have the right to remain silent. What do you want to do? Just to put it on the record. And if that's the case, that case goes to deliberation and the jury will spend however long they want coming to the conclusion of either guilt or innocence. Not guilty. I shouldn't say innocence because technically it's just not guilty. They're not actually proving innocence. They're purely deciding whether there's enough to convict or not. So that's how it becomes 2 days. If the defense is going to put on their own case, I would suggest that that case might extend this trial. So the fact that we are a few days from what is going to be Crystal Smith's trial on April 17th, and the fact that they've moved it a month leads me to believe that at this point, there is not going to be a defense case in chief. They're going to let the state put on whatever evidence they have and run with it. Is there enough for a jury to convict her? And the jury will make a decision. At this point, I will keep you posted as things happen. May 10th is the next hearing that I anticipate is going to happen. I'll keep my eyes and ears open. Tell me what you all think. Do you think Crystal Smith is just going to show up and sit in, at the defense table with her lawyer, watch a couple of police officers take the stand, watch the 2 videos that we keep talking about, one being the video of the interview room prior to Aiden being interviewed by law enforcement at the police station, the second being the in-home security camera footage, and then that'll be it? At which point, do you think those 2 things, and I've put those, I put them as exhibits. I've attached them to the previous video. I'm going to attach them to this video also. You watch them and tell me what you think. Do you think that there is enough evidence based on those 2 videos and the timing of those 2 videos to subject Crystal Smith to a conviction of tampering with evidence? Do you think it is sufficient for the fact that she mouthed the words blood to Aiden? You tell me if you see her saying the words blood. I think she does. But again, that's up to a jury. You look at it as if you were a juror. Do you believe there is sufficient evidence to support the fact that Crystal Smith tried to coach Aiden into telling law enforcement that he was wearing khakis so that she could go home and wash his jeans of any potential blood that would have been on there? Obviously, that blood being Tristan Bailey's blood. You tell me your thoughts on that. Watch the videos. Tell me down below what you think. Do you think she's going to put on a defense? Do you think she's actually going to call her own witnesses? I haven't seen any. You tell me who she could potentially call to refute the charges or the allegations against her. Last question is, how long do you think a jury is going to deliberate in order to make a decision about guilt or not guilty? Do you think it's going to be minutes? Do you think it's going to be hours? Do you think it'll be the rest of the day? Could it be multiple days? What are your thoughts about it? Think of it from a perspective of somebody that knows nothing about this case, that is sitting down for the first time, viewing these videos, listening to the testimony, and having to make a decision. Did this person tamper with evidence? Yes or no? Other than that, I'll keep you posted. Tell me your thoughts, and we'll be back.
Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who may be interested here on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and TikTok at Tragos Law is our handle. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast featuring new episodes every week. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us at lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. And of course, all these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.